The stench of burning incense and ozone clung to the corridors of the shrine world like a living thing, pressing against the lungs of every soul who dared enter. I was born in this suffocating devotion, bred to kneel, to chant, to serve. My earliest memories were of endless stone, towering statues of golden emperors, and the hollow echo of prayers that reverberated into eternity. I was nothing then but a boy with a thin voice, repeating verses I did not understand, yet somehow feared to question. The higher priests called me promising. The lower acolytes called me strange. I only knew one truth. The emperor was eternal, and we, his servants, were the instruments of his will. They chose me for tasks the others could not bear. I swept the corridors of forbidden archives, cataloging texts no mortal should ever glimpse. I dusted the reliquaries where the faces of saints, frozen in golden agony, stared at the void with eyes that had long since ceased to see. They sent me to inspect the lower levels, the catacombs where the faint glow of a bioluminescent fungi barely touched the crypts of dead heroes and condemned psychers. I had no companions there, only the soft dripping of stagnant water, the grinding of stone under my boots, and that pervasive, whispering silence that seemed almost alive. It was in one of those vaults that I first saw the void, not the physical emptiness beyond the walls of our sanctified world, but a deeper, more corrosive emptiness that gnawed at the mind. At first, it was only a flicker, a shadow curling across the corner of my vision, a sudden chill that made my hair rise. Then the whispers began, soft, almost imperceptible, growing louder with every passing day. They did not speak in words I knew. They spoke in thoughts, memories I never had, fears I did not recognize. I felt my faith tremble. The priests had trained me to resist the temptations of demons, to purge myself with fire and prayer, but this was not temptation. This was revelation. I tried to speak of it, at first in trembling whispers to my fellow acolytes. They looked at me with pity, some with quiet fear, and all with disbelief. The Emperor protects, they would say, a mantra meant to seal the cracks in the mind. Yet I knew that something beyond the Emperor's gaze had reached for me, had shown me what lurked between the stars, in the spaces where no light or hope could survive. I began to see the corruption beneath the perfection, the pale gleam of metal tainted with rust that the priests called sacred, the flicker of shadows moving of their own volition, the faint smell of rot under the sweet incense of devotion. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself wandering deeper into the archives, drawn by the compulsion of that invisible gaze. It led me to a chamber sealed by triple wards, forbidden even to the highest clergy. There was a relic inside, they said, of a long-dead saint who had glimpsed the void and returned mad. I did not expect to survive the encounter. When I lifted the seals, the air itself seemed to recoil. The relic was simple, a black stone the size of a fist, polished to a depthless shine. When I touched it, the whispers became voices, the chill became a hurricane of agony, and my mind cracked along the seams of sanity. I saw the stars bleed, I saw the Emperor's throne wreathed in flame and shadow, and I saw myself, a tiny, trembling mote in a universe that neither loved nor acknowledged our prayers. I do not remember how long I remained there, swaying between ecstasy and terror. When I came to, the relic had vanished, as if it had never existed, yet the whispers remained, etched into my thoughts, replaying memories and visions that could not belong to me. I returned to the surface, to the sunlight of the courtyards and the chants of my brothers, but the world felt hollow, artificial. Every time a priest raised a hand in blessing, I saw the void behind his eyes. Every time a hymn rang out, I heard the silence beyond the stars answering with mockery. I began my duties as before, tending to the sacred texts, polishing the golden idols, performing the rites. But the void had marked me. I could no longer kneel without feeling the emptiness pressing at my spine. I could no longer pray without hearing the laughter of things that should not exist. My brethren began to notice my distracted gaze, my sudden hesitations, and whispered of possession, of sin, of corruption. Some called for my confession. Others, in private, cursed me for drawing the Emperor's gaze. But no confession could cleanse me. No incense, no holy water, no prayer. The void had entered, and it would not leave. And then came the visions, more vivid than the whispers, more insistent than the cold. I walked the corridors in dreams, or perhaps I never slept, and I saw entire worlds consumed in fire, billions of souls crying out into nothingness, the stars themselves torn into ragged pieces. I saw loyal space marines fall to madness, inquisitors betray the Imperium for knowledge too terrible to comprehend, entire fleets vanish into the warp screaming with the voices of the dead. I tried to close my eyes, tried to cover my ears, tried to plead with the Emperor himself, but the void does not heed prayers. The void only sees. I fear now that I am no longer the boy who swept the floors of the shrine. I fear I am something else, a vessel, a witness, a herald of truths that none should know. Each day, I walk among the faithful, and I smile, and I pray, and I serve. But the whispers follow. They speak of inevitability, of doom, of the futility of devotion. I am cursed to see the rot beneath the gold, the void behind the light, the death behind every hope. And still, I endure, for to flee would be to invite the void fully into my soul, to become not a servant, but a monument to despair. I have begun to write this account, hidden within the margins of forbidden codices, hoping that someday some soul, brave or foolish enough, might read it. Perhaps they will understand the burden of knowing the void. Perhaps they will fear it, as I do. Perhaps they will pray for mercy for a galaxy that cannot save itself. But the void is patient, and it waits. It has already seen me. It has already marked me. The last candle in the chapel guttered as I completed these words. The shadows behind the statues twisted, fleetingly alive, as if testing the boundaries between stone and flesh. And somewhere, far beyond the safety of the shrine walls, I knew the universe itself was watching, waiting for the moment to show me what truly lies beyond the Emperor's light. I cannot run. I cannot hide. I can only bear witness. The void is endless. The void is patient. And I have seen it. The days that followed were a slow descent into a waking nightmare. Each task I performed became a ritual of endurance, a gauntlet of the mind as the whispers grew louder, shaping themselves into voices I could almost understand. Some called my name, some offered counsel in strange, impossible languages, some mocked, laughing in tones that felt like knives through the skull. I wandered the corridors of the shrine world in a daze, avoiding the eyes of my brothers, pretending devotion while feeling my grip on reality slip with every step. The priest spoke of holy duty, of vigilance, of purification, but I knew that no ritual could cleanse the mind of a glimpse into the eternal void. In the libraries of forbidden lore, I began to seek answers. I pored over texts hidden beneath layers of wards and sanctified seals, manuscripts that spoke in riddles and paradoxes. Here, the voices in my head found companions. The codices spoke of worlds that had vanished without trace, of psychers who had stared into the warp and returned hollow-eyed, of relics that burned their bearers from within. Each revelation was a knife twisting deeper into my understanding, a confirmation that the whispers were not madness. They were truth. The Imperium had long hidden these things, burying knowledge that could shatter faith, corrode loyalty, and invite despair. I was not alone in my visions. Shadows moved where shadows should not be. Faint shapes lingered at the periphery of my vision, figures tall and thin, cloaked in darkness, without discernible features, watching silently as I moved through halls and chambers. Occasionally, I would glimpse a pair of eyes, glowing faintly with a light that was neither holy nor mortal, and my stomach would coil with dread. These were not spirits of the dead, nor demons of the warp, nor illusions of the mind. They were observers, witnesses to my torment, as though the void itself had taken interest in me. Sleep became a tenuous thing. In dreams, I walked among ruined worlds. Cities lay in ruin beneath skies of fire and ash. Oceans boiled with unnatural heat. Forests writhed as though alive, screaming with silent mouths. I spoke with the lost, the damned, and those who had surrendered to the whispers, and they told me of the futility of hope. Some offered guidance, some cursed me for intruding upon their torment. And in every vision, the void reached towards me, a wave of cold and emptiness that threatened to erase the distinction between thought and reality. I awoke each morning with the taste of iron in my mouth and the faint metallic scent of blood in the air, though none was present. The priest began to notice subtle changes in me. The way I lingered over forbidden texts, the way my eyes drifted toward corners of the chapel where shadows should not dwell, the tremor in my hands when handling sacred relics. Some whispered of possession, others of impurity. I smiled through their accusations, a mask of obedience, and they recoiled from my gaze. For a moment, I wondered if they too had glimpsed the void and had chosen denial over understanding. My faith, the foundation of my existence, became a weapon I wielded not to bolster my soul but to hide its fracturing. One day, an acolyte approached me with a message from the high priest, a summons to the upper sanctum. The corridors I walked were impossibly long, though I had traversed them countless times before. Shadows clung to the walls like living things, stretching and recoiling with a subtle intelligence. As I ascended the winding stairways, I felt the whispers tighten around my mind, probing for weakness. The high priest awaited me in a chamber suffused with golden light, its radiance intended to blind and purify. Yet I saw through it. Beyond the light, the void lingered, a darkness that mocked even the emperor's brilliance. "Servant," the high priest intoned, voice echoing as if through endless halls, "you have been touched by something forbidden. Speak. What have you seen?" I could not tell him the truth. The words would shatter his mind as surely as they had shattered mine. Instead, I bowed, voice steady, though my soul quaked. "I have seen shadows where none should dwell. I have glimpsed the weakness that lies in all hearts. I have walked in corridors no man should tread." His eyes narrowed, sharp as obsidian, and for a heartbeat I thought he might summon the wrath of the emperor against me. Instead, he leaned closer, and I felt the weight of his gaze pierce me. "The void does not forgive," he said softly, almost in reverence. "And yet, it has chosen you." The words chilled me more than any vision. Chosen, not cursed. The implication was unbearable. I was no longer a mere servant, a boy tasked with menial devotion. I was a conduit, a vessel for truths too vast and terrible for mortal minds. The priest spoke of this in hushed tones, of ancient saints who had glimpsed the void and carried it as a mantle, a burden, a weapon. I did not know if I would endure as they had or crumble under its weight. That night, I walked the catacombs once more, alone. The air was thick with the scent of decay and sanctity entwined. The whispers were louder now, a chorus of innumerable voices converging into a singular message. Look, understand, witness. I obeyed, following their guidance deeper than I had ever dared. In a chamber long sealed, I found a mural, ancient beyond reckoning. It depicted the rise and fall of worlds, the ascent and corruption of saints, the devouring of stars by shadows that moved like water. I understood then that the void was not just emptiness. It was a force, conscious and patient, shaping the destinies of the galaxy in ways that the Imperium could not comprehend. I fell to my knees, trembling, and whispered prayers that felt hollow, even to me. The void responded, pressing against my mind, filling the space where hope had once dwelt with visions of inevitable decay. I understood that all faith, all devotion, all sacrifice was a fragile construct, a thin veneer over a universe that demanded nothing but surrender. And yet, amidst this revelation, I also glimpsed purpose. Not peace, not salvation, but a role. I would bear witness, I would catalog, observe, and endure, as those before me had done. The void had marked me, but it had also chosen me as its chronicler, a servant of truths no one else could face. I rose from the cold stone floor, chest heaving, mind alight with terror and clarity alike. The gallery of horrors and wonders before me had opened the path. I would continue to walk it. Alone, yes, but resolute. My life, my faith, my soul would become a testament to the horrors hidden beneath the Imperium's shining surface. And though I feared the day the void would claim me fully, I knew that as long as I lived, I would see, I would remember, I would endure.